Okay, let us start now. Let us hope that now there will be no any power fluctuation. Yes, so it breaks the rhythm. Okay, let's start. So what I was discussing that A is representing the location of a spark plug, and once the initial flame is forms, then it consumes the surrounding air fuel mixture and come out from the zone of the electrodes of a spark plug. And then after that, once it will reach here, and then it will again consumes the surrounding air fuel mixture, and then it will travel to the, in this way it will travel across the combustion chamber. But during that travel, what happens, as the amount of the air fuel mixture consumes, it increases the pressure and temperature, and because of that, unburnt mixtures will be compressed to the higher pressure and temperature. So let us consider a case when the flame front reached at the BB dash towards, that is the towards the end of the compression, towards the end of combustion charge. So this, in this region, the in hashed region, there is a unburnt mixture that is still is not consumed with the flame front. But since the most of the fuel has been consumed, the pressure inside the combustion chamber will be very high, and because of that, the end product, it will compressed at very high pressure and temperature. So if a combustible mixture is compressed to the very high pressure and temperature, then what will happen? There might be possibility that the whole mixture will auto ignite. If it is because of the compression, it will reach at that critical temperature and pressure. So if suppose if it is not reached at the critical pressure and temperature and not sustained that critical value of the pressure and temperature, then it will not auto ignite, and the flame front BB dash will further progress to the point D and consumed all the unburnt mixtures. And if that is happening, and if you plot the P theta, you will get a smooth curve of the pressure variation across the, with respect to the crank angle. And that we defined it as the normal combustion, where flame is progressed from the spark plug, and it will travel across the combustion chamber and consume the unburnt mixtures in the uniform manner. But here we have assumed that the compression of the end charge is not up to the point that the end charge will not attain the critical pressure and temperature. But let us suppose in another case, okay, that same condition, the flame front is at point BB dash, okay, and because of a certain operating condition of the engine or because of any change in the input parameters, what happening that when the flame front is reaching towards the end of compression, towards the end of combustion chamber, that is what we are terming it as a BB dash, then the end charge is going to be compressed to such an extent that it will reach at the critical value of the pressure and temperature at which it will auto ignite. So once the critical pressure and temperature will reach at this mixture, then again what will happen? This mixture will also go through the ignition um, lag period. So it is not only sufficient that the end product will reach at the critical values, but it has to stay there at that critical value for at least the ignition lag period, and then after that the end product will auto ignite. So once the flame front is reached at the BB dash, at that time the end product will reach, let us suppose it is reaching at the critical value, and then the into charge is going through the ignition lag period. By the time the flame front is further traveled towards the right side and reach at point CC dash, by the time the mixture C, D, C dash is overcome its ignition lag period, and the whole product, that is what you can see here, it is going to be auto ignite simultaneously. So the whole mixture is going to be combust instantaneously together, and because of that it will create a high pressure and temperature, and a high level of the pressure wave will be created because of the instantaneous combustion of C dash mixtures, and it will travel from right to left side. So from left to right side, a normal pressure flame front is coming, and then because of this auto ignition of the end charge, a, a, a high magnitude of and more powerful wave will propagate from left to right. It will collide with each other, and it will produce a kind of the sound that is considered as the metallic sound. And when you record the pressure, because of this vibration or because of the collision of these two kind of the pressure curve, you will find the pressure curve is a zigzag way towards the end of compression stroke, and that is zigzag way what you are recording in the pressure variation. It is the indication that the something problem. When the end charge is auto igniting before the normal flame front consume it, that phenomena is called knocking phenomena. And when knocking is taking place, and at that time when you are recording the P theta diagram, you will find it out that is a zigzag way of a noise is coming into the combustion in the P theta diagram, and this is indicating that your engine is going through the knock period. This knocking is so powerful, okay, that if you cannot, if you not address it in immediately and let it be happen, this knocking, then the severity is going to be increased, and then what will happen, then there might be chance that your whole engine is going to be seized, and it is a disaster, and then probably you need to completely overhaul the engine, open the engine, change the internal parts of the engine, and that is considered as the complete surgery of the engine. That is never ever we want to happen. So the knocking is the phenomenon in which the end charge is going to be combust instantaneously before it consumed by the normal flame front. And because of that, a high pressure wave will be generated that will collide with the normal pressure wave and produce a kind of the sound that is considered as a metallic sound. Because of this metallic sound, there is might be possibility that the piston, because piston can move, because it has all sort of the variation degree of freedom, it can move, or it can hit on the cylinder head even also. And because of that, the shape, piston, temperature may melt because of the high temperature. All sort of the problems may occur if you cannot address the knocking phenomena. When you are recording the P theta diagram, then you will not get the smooth curve the way you can get. You will get it in the normal combustion, but there will be a lot of noise or zigzag things. You will get it in the P theta diagram. So that is the knocking, and this knocking is going to be more prominent if you increase the compression ratio. Why? Because once you increase the compression ratio of the engine, what will happen towards the end of compression charge? Okay, towards the end of compression charge, compression stroke, the pressure and temperature will be much higher, and then the combustion will take place. Then further it will increase the pressure and temperature, and then what will happen? The chances of exploding the end charge will be more. So because of this knocking, as once you increase the compression ratio of the engine for a given fuel, what will happen? That after a certain compression ratio, your engine will go to the knock region, and that we do not want. So therefore, for a given engine and the fuel, the compression ratio is the limited because of this knocking phenomena. But with the same engine, when you can replace with a fuel of superior knock resistance ability, it means if you can replace the fuel with having higher octane number, then what will happen? There is a chance that you can further go increase the compression ratio of the engine, because the octane number of your fuel is increased. So for gasoline engine, it is with very best solutions, we can get it around 12 or 12.5. That is max. I'm saying that is really in general the production in vehicle. What we were seeing, it is almost like 11 or 11.5 has a compression ratio, and because of this knock phenomena, that we cannot reach the compression ratio of the engine. However, let us suppose about the CNG that right now we are using extensively in the almost all part of the India. You will be surprised to know that CNG has the very high octane number. It has an octane number of around 120 to 125 compared to their gasoline engine, which has the octane number of 90 to 95. So it means what meaning? Its meaning is that with the CNG, we can increase the compression ratio of the spark ignition engine. Okay, it may go up to 12, 14, or even 15, even you can go it. But what is the problem we have right now? In India, probably you are saying that a car can run on the gasoline as well as on the CNG. Okay, there are so many cars right now. We have even in the production car that is coming from the dual fuel mode. Dual fuel mode, it means it can run on the gasoline as well as on the CNG. Some of the people may convert their engine also, even if it is not come out from the manufacturer sides. That it's very simple. It's very easy also. Nowadays there are several shops in the market that you can take your car there. They will install some of the kit, and now your car is ready to run on the CNG also as well as the gasoline. Now here is the limitation. Now see, the thing is CNG is such a good fuel that has the octane number of 120 to 125. But since you are using the CNG with the combination of the diesel with the combination of the gasoline fuel, you cannot raise the compression ratio of that engine, because once you raise it, then you will not be able to run the engine on the gasoline. So a high grade of the fuel, you are underutilizing it. And even though with the gasoline, there is no problem of the knocking at the compression ratio of 11, 12, or 13, but you have to use it because you have to use the gasoline fuel also. So now you can see there is a chance. Why not we are able to produce the dedicated CNG engine? Yes, there is some problem of the dedicated CNG vehicle also. So slowly we have to overcome of all these barriers, and we will make sure that we can maximize the benefits of the fuel properties in order to get the best output from the engine performance. So the knocking is the culprit or abnormal combustion. So now how we can define the normal combustion? Normal combustions, we can define that if the combustion is initiated in any part of the combustion chamber apart from any means apart from the spark plug, that is termed as the abnormal combustion. If the flame front is developed with the spark plug and it is traveling across the combustion chamber, it is considered a normal combustion. But because of any means a secondary pressure, a secondary source of combustion is initiated, okay, that is, we call it as the abnormal combustion. Knocking in SI engine, what we can see here one of the very interesting observation, that the knocking takes place towards the end of combustion in the SI engine. That is really Very important. In the beginning, we don't have a problem. In the beginning of the combustion, the end charge will not be able to compress to the such an extent that the auto ignition of the end charge can take place. So it is only possible when towards the end of the combustion. So therefore, you have to be very careful. It's a very general knowledge kind of the question that knocking in the SI engine is the phenomena at towards the end of combustion. Okay, so the octane number of the fuel is very important as far as the knocking is concerned, that the because it resists the knocking phenomena. The fuel that has a higher octane number, we may be in the position to use it at higher compression ratio. Okay, so I'm sure that you may have questions related with knocking and all the parameter of these things. Now it's open for the questions. Please ask the question if you have. Yes, any question?
So the pressure pulsation in the knocking phenomena is essentially caused due to the collision of the two flame fronts.
Yes. In general, see the things is there is some kind of the sound also comes out, but when engine is running there itself, there is a lot of mechanical vibrations. So if the knock intensity is mild, okay, it's a bit difficult to identify whether the knocking is taking place inside the combustion chamber or not, just to hear the sound. It's a bit difficult. So best way to analyze the knocking, whether the knocking is taking place or not, by recording the pitch heater diagram. And then you have to also very careful that whatever the some noise or any zigzag you are getting in the pitch heater, it is not the signal noise or electrical noise, but it is because of the collision of the two pressure curves. That has to be on that pitch heater, whatever you are getting it, then you have to do it. Then you have to do it what is called signal processing. Then you have to do the FFT to find it out that what is the knock intensity and also knock characterizations is another separate things. But anyway, we are not going there. Only thing right now is enough to get it that it's possible to get the knock, whether the knock is taking place or not. We can get it through the P theta diagram. If there is a knock, what is called vibration or any zigzag is coming towards the end of combustion H2. That is towards the end of the combustion. That's really very important. If there is anything is coming in the beginning of itself, then that is the knock, not knock, because knock cannot take place in the beginning of the combustion itself. Okay, anything else?
So I
I
think
had a
you had.
doubt.
Wait, one by one. Yeah, Nirvay, do you want to say something?
Yes, yes, I think you had mentioned earlier in the lecture that there's a maximum octane rating of 100.
Yeah.
So also you had mentioned that CNG has octane rating of an octane number of 120.
125, yes.
So it's greater than 100. I did not understand.
Yes, that's really very good question. Good that you have observed this point. Yes.
Sir, is it because it's a gaseous fuel?
See the knock, it is not the related with the gases, okay? Uh, see the things is knock maximum value of the octane number, it is a designated, there is a scale, okay? For that, what Nirbhay has asked the question that for to answer these questions, we need to know that how we can find it out the octane number of a fuel that I have skipped here. Once we know that value, octane number of a fuel is 100. It's not like the 100 is the fixed value. It is the scale, okay? It is a relative scale on which we have designated that if on this scale the maximum value is 100, so a fuel can be assigned the octane number maximum 100. But if we can change the scale, okay, then obviously the octane number can go even more than 100. So let me explain you the, even though I don't have a slides, but I can explain you the verbally, okay, and try to listen. How to calculate the octane number? Octane number is the mixture of the two things, isooctane and normal heptane. Okay, isooctane is considered as a resistant fuel, and on the scale we are assigning the value of 100. And the normal heptane is considered as a very least resistance of the fuel, or even we can assign on the scale it is a 0 value. Now, how we determine the octane number of the fuel? There is a specific kind of the engine. Okay, it has a specific name, CFR Cooperative Fuel Research Engine. How we find it out? There is a standard operating condition of the engine. It means your engine speed, coolant temperature, environment temperature, humidity, air temperature, spark timing, everything is fixed. Everything is fixed. And we take the unknown fuel which we want to measure the octane number. But that engine, CFR engine, has a flexibility to vary the compression ratio of the engine. So first of all, we will take the unknown fuel. All the parameters will be remains constant, and let us suppose initially we will run the engine at the compression ratio of 8, whatever. Let us start with the lower values. 7 we can start, 8 we can start, 9 we can start. And we run the engine. And we'll find it out whether the knocking is taking place or not. Let's suppose at 8 compression ratio, knocking is not taking place. That's really very good. We will raise the compression ratio from 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 10 to 11. We will raise the compression ratio when the knocking starts. Let us suppose at 11 compression ratio, with this your unknown fuel under the fixed environmental conditions, knocking is taking place. Okay, so the 11 compression ratio is fixed now. We are not going to change the compression ratio of the engine, and then we will not use the unknown fuel. Instead of that, we are going to use a mixture of isooctane and normal heptane fuel. Okay. Initially, we will take pure isooctane. We run the engine, and we will find it out at 11 compression ratio itself, where the knocking has been taking place with the unknown fuel. And we find it out that at 11 compression ratio with isooctane, pure isooctane, no knocking. Very good. We will reduce the concentration of the isooctane and it will mix the normal heptane. Let us suppose we are giving now 95% of the isooctane, 5% we are giving to the normal normal heptane. It is a fuel now. And then we will run the engine with the same compression ratio on all the operating constants. Knocking is not taking place. Very good. Further, we will reduce the concentration of isooctane and increase the concentration of normal heptane. We will vary the mixture ratio up to the point where we will find, our objective will be find the mixture concentration ratio of the isooctane and normal heptane in the fuel at which the knocking will take place at 11 compression ratio. Let us suppose at 90% of the isooctane and 10% of normal heptane, knocking is taking place. Then for that unknown fuel, we will assign the octane number of 90. So this is a scale. Now, still the question answer has been not, the question has been not answered. That what one of your friend has asked. That I'm saying that what will happen? CNG, which has 125. That's till now what I have explained you, that any fuel that may have an octane number of less than 100, and it's really very good to perform such kind of experiments. But that experiments is not going to be successful with the CNG. Okay, and I have explained with the liquid fuels, the fuels that has a less than 100. I'll be really very happy that if you can find out the answer, that how a fuel, or how we can say that CNG has a 125 octane number, how it can be measured. For such kind of the fuel, what is the how we can do the experiments and how we can measure that is impartial it is going to be, or at least in the wide region it is going to be acceptable. So I would leave it on you, particularly the nearby on all of the class, to find it out this answer, that how the octane number of having more than 100 can be measured experimentally. I have explained to you about the fuel that has the less than the 100 on 100 octane number. And in the next class, when I will meet, then I will ask you. If I will see that whether you can give some answer or not. If not, then I will try to explain. Okay, very good question. Somebody else? Anything else regarding octane number or knocking? You have to, one of the very important technical things you have to know, that it is not sufficient. The end charge will reach at the critical value. It is not indication of the knocking, that knock will take place. Once the end charge has to reach at the knock critical value, then the ignition lag period has to be shorter than the time taken by the flame front to reach at the end point. Then in that case only the knocking will take place. That is very critical technical points that everybody should know. Because if the ignition delay, even though it has reached at the critical value, but the ignition delay is longer than the time taken by the flame front to reach at the end point, then what will happen? It will not auto ignite. Before it, the normal flame front will consume all the end charge, and there will be no knocking. But if the ignition lag is shorter, then the time it reach flame front to reach at the end point, then what will happen? The normal flame front will not be able to consume the whole part of the end charge, and then the remaining part, left part, it will auto ignite and knocking will take place. Any question related to that? Or should I move?
So is the flame front supersonic?
It depends upon the several, yes, it depends upon the several things. Okay, it depends upon the mixture strength, it depends upon the combustion chamber geometry. There's so many parameters to define. Okay, so that's the things that because of that you cannot raise the compression ratio of the SI engine to more than the limiting values. Okay, because of the knocking. What is the knocking? That I hope it is clear to you. Knocking is the phenomena towards the end of combustion. That has to be also very important point. Because why I'm emphasizing on that, that when I will discuss about the knocking in the diesel engine, and there I will say the knocking will take place in the beginning of the combustion. And that's the difference between the knocking of the SI engine and CI engine. In CI engine, it will occur at the possibility to occur the knock in the beginning of the combustion, whereas the SI engine, will be at the end of the combustion. So that difference has to be very clear. Okay. So I'm moving now from here to the diesel engine now. Diesel engine combustion. And the same way I'm also going to explain that how the pitch heat or heat release varies during the combustion in the diesel engine, okay, and then its associated knocking phenomena. Okay, see this picture is really very interesting things. This is the combustion taking place in the diesel engine, in actual diesel engine. So can anyone tell me how this picture has been taken? From where this picture has been taken? You have a very clear picture of the engine, okay? You know the internal and everything, the things. Obviously, this is a kind of the photography. From where this picture, from where the camera is located, how we can take this picture?
A fuel injector.
It's a fuel injector. Yes, this is the fuel injector. I understand, but where? How I can take the picture? If the combustion is taking place, okay, it has been taken from the bottom of the combustion chamber, from the lower side of the engine. We are sitting at the ground looking at the top, okay, and if it is possible to see the combustion by raising your head, then this such kind of the picture will take place. If you remember, I have discussed about the optical engine in the beginning of our semester. The optical, if you have an optical engine, then what happens? The part of the piston crown is also made of quartz. Okay, so if it is made of quartz and it has an extended connecting rod also, so if you have such kind of the engine in the laboratory or in the research center, then it's possible to get such kind of the beautiful picture of the combustion. Okay, so if you look very carefully about this mixture, what we have discussed, we have also discussed single hole injector, multi-hole injector, just 2-3 days back in our class. So this is the example of multi-hole injector. Now you see there are 6 jets are coming out from this is our injector, and from injector these are 6 jets are coming out, and as soon as it is coming out, it will go through the ignition delay period in the beginning, and now see the combustion is going to be takes place. Okay, that's it. The showing it is the combustion picture. Okay. Now, instead of the pit heater diagram as we have taken to discuss the combustion in SI engine, we are here taking the heat release diagram in the diesel engine. It's easy to discuss, or it is very easy to discuss in combustion phenomena with the help of the heat release rate in diesel engine, even though we can do it with the pit heater also. Okay, now see here, we know very well what is the meaning of a start of injection, end of the injection. You have a very clear idea that how the diesel engine works. Okay, in the intake stroke, it is the only air comes into the combustion chamber, and then during the compression, it is going to be compressed. Since the compression ratio of the diesel engine is more, it is going to compress, and its pressure and temperature will be very high towards the end of compression stroke. When piston is about to reach at the top dead center, then SOI takes place. That is a start of injection. The fuel injection takes place. You know that how the injection can take place, what are the different system we have already discussed. So the injection will take place. Once the fuel will come out, into the combustion chamber, we have also discussed that it will go through the several process. It will go through the atomization, penetration, evaporation, mixing with air, and then combustion. So as soon as the jet of the fuel will come out into the combustion chamber, it will go through the all physical phenomena, and then it will be ready to combust. So it means as the SOI, fuel of injection, takes place, it doesn't mean that the combustion is also going to be a start instantaneously, because it has to go through the different process. It has to mix, it has to go with the different mix physical process, in which it has to go through the um, atomization, penetration, evaporation, mixing. Okay, these are the physical process. And then once it mixes with each other, then it has to absorb the heat from the air. Okay, and then it will go through the intermediate reactions before a start of the combustion. So that part is called chemical delay. So there is a delay once the fuel injection takes place. So start of the injection is not the meaning of the start of the combustion, but there is some delay, and that delay involves some physical delay plus chemical delay. Once the fuel will overcome this delay, and then it is going to be combust. Once it is going to be combust, then what will happen? It will release the energy, and you will see that initially the rate of the heat release is very high, is very steep, and it is reaching at the max, and suddenly it comes down. Now see, the fuel injection is still taking place, and then once again it is the rate of the heat release increasing, but its slope is not so steep like here, but it is going slowly. It is reaching at the max once again. Okay, and then it is coming down. That is the what we can discuss just by seeing this curve. There is one very interesting fact is here also. A is the point where the injection starts. B is the point where the heat release, the heat release is showing in the positive increase, but between A and B, the heat release is showing the negative value. Okay, and this point is showing the end of the injection. So now what you are seeing, combustion is going on, the fuel injection is also going on. So that's why I told you the diesel engine combustion is much complex than the SI engine combustion, because the fuel injection, combustion, so many physical process, everything is happening together. So why this heat release initially between in this period that we define as the ignition delay period. So ignition delay period is the start of the injection and the start of the combustion. That is point B. That is ignition delay, and then after the ignition delay period, the heat release rate is very high, and then it's come down. So this point between B to C, we call it pre-mixed combustion phase. Then C, again the rate of the heat release increasing slowly, reaching at the max. Okay, fuel injection is over, but still combustion is going on. Then somewhere at point D, the C to D we called mixing controlled combustion phase, and after D to E, towards the later part of the combustion or compression expansion stroke, that is the late combustion phase. Similarly, the late combustion phase is not going to contribute in terms of the power output, but it will be very important from the emissions point of view. So just by analyzing the heat release curve of a typical diesel engine, the whole combustion of the diesel engine is divided into the 4 different sections: ignition delay, pre-mixed combustion phase, mixing control phase, and the late combustion phase. These are the parts. So now question is why it is. First of all, we need to discuss that why the heat release is negative. It is because here the fuel is absorbing the heat from the combustion chamber, and that's why it is showing it here as the negative value. Once it is overcoming the ignition delay period, then fuel is releasing the heat, and then the rate of the heat release is showing the positive value. Now, the second thing is that why in the pre-mixed combustion phase, okay, the rate of the heat release is so steep and high. Why it is happening? Now see the things is, during the ignition delay period, fuel is coming into the combustion chamber, but combustion is not taking place. So all the fuel that is coming during the ignition delay period will be accumulate inside the combustion chamber. It will go through all the physical process and overcome the ignition delay period. And then, depending upon their thermodynamic condition, there is a possibility that all the fuel that has been accumulated during the ignition delay period or part of the fuel that has been injected during the ignition delay period will combust simultaneously, and the rate of the heat release will be very steep and very high instantaneously. Once all the fuel burn out, then what will happen? The heat release will decrease, but will not come down further because the fuel injection is still going on, and since the combustion has started, the pressure and temperature inside the combustion chamber is very high. So after the combustion started, whatever the fuel is coming inside the combustion chamber, that will whatever we inject in the ignition delay period. So once the combustion started, and then after that whatever the fuel is coming inside the combustion chamber, it may be assumed that that fuel is instantaneously going into the combustion phase. So for such kind of the fuel, the ignition delay period will be very, very minimal. And then what will happen, since after the pre-mixed phase it will be over, the fuel injection is still going on. So rate of the combustion will be depend on that the rate of the mixing of the injected fuel and air, and therefore that phase is called mixing controlled combustion phase. It will reach in the mixing controlled combustion phase, it will reach to the another maximum point. The maximum point of the mixing control phase will be lower or higher, maybe it's depending upon the quantity of the fuel injected into the pre-mixed phase and the mixing control phase. So once the end of the injection will be end, still what will happen, if we know that it is a heterogeneous combustion, even though the end of injection is injection process is over, some of the zone in the combustion chamber will have a very rich combustion chamber, rich mixtures. And since diesel engine always runs into the linear mode, so there is air is already available. So there is a possibility that rich zone may be converted into the combustible flammable region, and if the pressure and temperature is still high, then the combustion will be still go on. And at intermediately, the deep point is again, it's difficult to point it out, but in the later stop, later part, we draw the point, and that is called end of the mixing control phase. After that, the late combustion phase is going on, where there are so many other things. Whatever the hydrocarbons has been escaped from the pre-mixed and the mixing control phase, they may go, may or may not find an opportunity, may find an opportunity to burn at a very slow rate, and that is termed as the late combustion phase. And that's the way is a typical heat release curve of the diesel engine. Here we have a different phases of the combustion, like ignition delay period, pre-mixed combustion, mixing control phase, and late combustion phase. Now imagine that if you are using any fuel, okay, and that has a longer ignition delay period, then during that ignition delay period, more fuel will be accumulated. And then once the combustion will be start, then the peak of the premixed combustion phase will be very high. So the chance, so many flames, there are so many, because in the diesel engine, there is not one spark plug. There is possibility to act, there are so many sides of the initiation of the combustion. So there is a possibility that the rate of the pressure rise will be very high, okay? And since there are different initiations of the combustions, the different pressure will be created, and then because of the very high rate of the combustion, the peak knocking probability will be higher in the beginning of the combustion if the ignition delay period will be very high. And therefore we termed it that the knocking in the diesel engine, there is a possibility to occur in the beginning of the combustion because of the large amount of the fuel accumulated in the ignition delay period. So in this discussions, what we can conclude, at least one of the very important point, that in diesel engine we should use the fuel that has a lower ignition delay period. So for defining these characteristics of the fuel, there is a one term that is called cetane number. Okay, that is called cetane number. Cetane number defines the how its ability to combust. Okay, it defines the ability of the fuel to combust, how fast it. If the cetane number of the fuel is higher, then it will combust very easily. If the cetane number is lower, then it will have a longer ignition delay period. Okay, diesel has yeah, okay, so I'm not going here right now as far as the discussion of this part. Okay, let me discuss about the knocking of the CI engine. Knocking of the CI engine. First of all, let us discuss these three pictures, and then it's possible to will come back on the topmost picture in the diesel engine. See that this one set of the image. What we are seeing here. This is pressure, this is time, or you can place the theta also. And then this line, in all three, it is same line. It is representing the position of top dead center. Okay, and then this left hand line, this line is representing the start of the combustion. So the start of the combustion is fixed. Okay, in all these are the three different conditions. So in all three conditions, the start of the combustion is fixed. Here, what it is showing in this picture, this line is showing a start of the injection. Okay, so that is corresponds to this line, and then this line, it is showing a start of the combustion. Okay, so this duration, let us suppose this has a time unit. So this duration is what we call ignition delay period. Okay, and this total period is termed as the fuel injection duration. That is, this line is called end of injection. Okay, so there is one case where a start of injection takes place, but a start of combustion has this much of time. So during this ignition delay period, only a small amount of the fuel will be accumulated, and once the combustion will be a start, then either the whole fuel or the part of the fuel will combust and participate into the pre-mixed combustion phase. But since the amount is very not high, then what will happen? A smooth rate of the pressure rise will be developed, and we will get a very desired Vichita diagram. Now in the second case, a start of the injection is the fixed, but because of the reason, any reason, the ignition delay period has been increased. Now you can see with the drawing also, the ignition delay period has been increased. Then what will happen? More amount of the fuel will be accumulated in this zone before the start of the combustion. And when combustion will start, then there is a possibility that larger amount of the fuel will be combusted instantaneously. So the rate of the pressure rise will be very steep, that we can see here. And in the first picture, the peak pressure was occurring after the top dead center. But because ignition delay period is very high, now see the rate of the pressure rise will be very high, and your peak pressure is shifted towards the left hand side, and it is almost occurring at the top dead center. The third condition is that the delay period is further increased. So more amount of the fuel will be accumulated here. And when the combustion will start, then the rate of the pressure rise will be so high, and there is various nucleus of the combustion. Okay, then there's a possibility that it will set the or it will prepare or it will conducive for the knocking phenomena, and then possibility to occur the knock. Rate of the pressure rise will be very high, and we will get some zigzag parts in the V theta diagram. That what we can see on this picture. Here we have a start of the combustion, a start of the injection, a start of the combustion, and since the ignition delay period is so high that once the combustion will start, all the fuels or most of the fuels may ignite and it will knock, and we can get a zigzag curve. So this is what we are getting the knocking in the diesel engine. If you remember the SI engine knock curve, then the zigzag we are getting at this point after the top dead center towards the end of combustion. But in the diesel engine, we are getting in the beginning of the combustion. And that is what the knocking phenomena. And this knocking phenomena can be reduced if the environment inside the combustion chamber or the fuel properties in such a way that it has a lower ignition delay period, and then what will happen? Then it is possible to initiate the combustion as soon as possible it comes into the combustion chamber. Further, with the advancement of our new CRDI system that can penetrate the combustion chamber to a larger extent, and it has very small droplets, it will be easy to evaporate and mix with the fuel air mixture. It will reduce the ignition delay period and reduce the possibility of the knocking in the diesel engine also, compared to your mechanical fuel injection system. So that's the way the knocking can take place in the diesel engine. Okay, so now it is again open for the question for the diesel engine part. Please ask the question. Any question? I would suggest all of you that please read few pages of the J.B. Havid book related with knocking. Okay, with this our discussions in the class, it will be easy for you to understand and get some in-depth knowledge also. If something is not clear, please discuss in the class, next class or any other classes. But here still we have a time. You may ask if you have some doubt, because now today content is over. The next class onwards we will start the emission.
So does knocking in CI engines cause the same amount of physical damage as in SI engines?
It all depends upon the intensity of the knocking. Irrespective of if the knocking in diesel engine itself is very intense, then it will no doubt it will even produce very harsh conditions. So it has nothing related with CI or SI. It has to be related with the intense or knocking intensity, that how hard knocking is taking place. Good, very good question. Anything else?
But usually I've never heard the concern for knocking in CI engines. Usually it's always about SI engines.
Yes, because you are dealing with now with a very high, good, what is called combustion fuel injection system. Before that, it was a very, it was also a good, a big problem as like the SI engine. But the time when you are reading or you are seeing the engine, there is a very advanced technology we are using it, and that's the reason that nowadays that is not as much as concerned as the SI engine. So in another way, we can say that as far as the knocking in the diesel engine is concerned, we have almost overcome this problem, but still it is existed in the SI engine that has to be taken care of. Anything else?
So out of the physical delay and the chemical delay in the ignition lag part, which one is easier to reduce?
uh, Chemical delay, physical delay, it depends on the kind of fuel injection system you are using. Okay, because physical delay contains that how fast the air fuel ratio, the fuel and air mix together and forms a combustible mixture. So it mostly depends on the fuel injection system, okay, or fuel injection parameter, spray parameters. Obviously, it also depends upon the in cylinder flow movement and the pressure and temperature of the combustion chamber. So that is once the engine is made, okay, compressor ratio is fixed, then it's easy to control the injection parameter to overcome the or to play with the ignition delay period. Or during the your design of the combustion engine itself, then you have to take care from beginning itself. Then how can we can reduce the chemical delay, because the chemical delay depends upon the what is the temperature at that time, pressure at that time, and how fast the heat transfer is taking place, what is the cooling environment. So all these things. So it's better to it's easy to when we have as a researcher we have to control it for a given engine, then it's easy to control with the physical delay period. Do you think there is a physical delay period also in the SI engine ignition delay period? In diesel engine, I told that it has a two-part physical delay and the chemical delay. Do you think it is true for the SI engine also? Think about that question. Okay, so if there is no any further question at this point, so thank you very much, all of you, for having patience for almost 2 hours. In between that, there was some power fluctuations, but that is beyond my limitation. Thank you, all of you, and see you in the next class.